This conference will now be recorded.
There you go. Thank you, Althea. Hi, everybody. Just want to introduce you to Althea Harris and Joelle Hine from the SBA office in South Florida over in Miami. And are you in Miami, Janelle?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So they've been kind enough to join us today and do a presentation on the restaurant revitalization program that SBA is doing to help with the recovery from the pandemic. And I'm going to turn it over to them to proceed and give us a short presentation.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Warren. You're always such a great partner with the SBA, you and your team at Lee County Economic Development. I really appreciate you putting this together for us to give us an opportunity to talk about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. It was created back in March by Congress and funded to the tune of $28.6 billion. And it's for restaurants to help them recover, because we know that they are the hardest hit among industries by the pandemic. And this $28.6 billion will be available until it is all spent. And it launches on Monday, May 3rd. So we're really excited about that. Next slide. Really important, who's eligible? There's a long list of eligibility, and it's right there on the screen. This is pretty much for businesses where the public or patrons assemble for the primary purpose of consuming and being served food and drinks. So that's going to be your restaurants, food stands, food trucks, caterers, bars and saloons, coffee shops, ice cream shops, etc. But when we get to bakeries, I want to note for you all to notice on the screen that there are a list of businesses who have to demonstrate that their on-site sales to the public constitute a third of their gross receipts in order to be eligible for money from this fund. This is a grant, not a loan. Next slide. There are some people who are ineligible. So municipalities and local governments are not eligible for the businesses they own and run and operate. As of March 13th, 2020, small business owners who own or operate more than 20 locations are ineligible for funding under this program. If you have an existing application or you have received money under the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, you are ineligible. So you have to pick which one you want to access. If you're a publicly traded company, a nonprofit, or your business is permanently closed, you are not eligible for funding here. And if we cannot give you at least $1,000 in funding, then you're ineligible as well. Your business is not substantial enough to warrant giving you money from this fund. Now, the maximum amount of funding is $5 million per location, where no one applicant will get more than $10 million, regardless of the number of businesses they have. And then, as I mentioned, the minimum award is $1,000. This is different from the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant in that you do not have to register with SAM, the federal government's database of registrants who receive some kind of funding or assistance from the federal government. Folks who have valid individual taxpayer identification numbers are able to apply under this program. If you have questions about that, you should definitely check out the IRS website. Next slide. Various different business formations are eligible under the Restaurant Revitalization Program. You'll see that comprehensive list there: C Corps, S Corps, LLCs, independent contractors, etc. So very wide range of people who are eligible. Next slide. Franchises are also eligible under this Restaurant Revitalization Fund. So if you own a franchise, you should definitely look into applying for this program. Now, in order for your franchise to be eligible, it has to be listed on SBA's franchise directory. If it isn't, you can sort of petition to be on it and show documentation to SBA that your franchise should be eligible for membership on that directory. SBA has that directory because not all franchises are small business or entrepreneur friendly. And so for those that are not, we do not allow them to have membership on our directory. But if you're a franchise, you might be eligible as well. Next slide. There are some folks who are eligible even if you have a bankruptcy. Normally a bankruptcy would be a non-starter for funding under SBA's programs. However, if you are operating under an approved plan of reorganization, whether it's chapter 11, 12, or 13, and you otherwise meet all of the eligibility requirements, then you can potentially get money under this program. But if your business, as I said, is permanently closed, or you filed Chapter 7 liquidation bankruptcy, or you filed under the other chapters of bankruptcy, but you don't have an approved plan, you are still ineligible. So it's really important that if you are filed for bankruptcy, that you have an approved plan in place, and then you can be considered under this program. Again, if you're permanently closed, not eligible. If you're temporarily closed because of the pandemic, look at this program. Next slide. This is a really important slide. If you have PPP loans, if you are in the process of applying for a PPP loan, if your PPP-1 loan has already been forgiven, irrespective of your status with PPP, if you have one or are trying to get one, those dollar amounts are subtracted from your overall potential grant. So if you want a restaurant revitalization grant, no problem, but you have to let us know about your PPP loans so we can do the deduction. Next slide. You will have to say affirmatively and attest that you need this money because of current economic uncertainty. So keep that in mind. If we find later through audit that you did not need this money, that's going to be a problem for you. So make sure that you actually need this money before you ask for it. So I bet you're wondering, what are the uses of this money? The good news is a very expansive list of what you can spend restaurant revitalization monies on. They include 3 categories: business expenses, construction expenses, and business debt. You'll see there, these are the usual expenses that businesses have, and you can utilize this money on those expenses. You can also use restaurant revitalization fund monies to pay arrears. So if you're behind in your rent at your business, you can use this money to pay that. If you're behind on your utility payments, you can use this money to pay for that. You can also use this money in terms of construction to expand to outdoor seating. What we know is that restaurants have been hard hit because the social distancing requirements have minimized their capacity, right? So it used to be that you could serve 100 people at dinner. Now, because of social distancing, maybe you can only serve 30. So you can use restaurant revitalization funds to expand outdoor seating. What you cannot do is use it to expand to another location, right? You cannot buy a competitor or anything or expand in that way. Business debt. With all SBA funding, you can use it to pay your business debt in an ongoing way. You cannot use this money to pay off your debt. So you have to service your debt with this money, not pay it off completely. Next slide. The good news is you have until March 11th of 2023, so almost 2 years to use this money. So you don't have to spend it all in one place, right? But if you close your business after receiving these funds, you must return it. Any unused funds you must return, okay? Next slide. Let's see, what is this about? Yes, you will have to have a detailed expenditure report and certify the use of your funds. Okay, so we're going to check and see what you've done with the money, and that's really important that you utilize it appropriately. That's basically what this slide is saying. And so we're going to be coming out with additional guidance to help you with these detailed reporting requirements and procedures as we continue to roll out this fund. Next slide. Oh, this is for you, Janelle. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to take over the portion of this that talks about how you can calculate your potential RRR fund amount. There's going to be 3 different calculations. Each of them have different requirements into why you would use one over the other. So the first calculation, calculation number 1, is actually for applicants that were in business for the entirety of 2019. So if you were in operation prior to or on January 1st, 2019 going forward, this would be the calculation that you would use. The way you're going to look at it is the base amount is going to be based on your 2019 gross receipts. You're going to subtract out your 2020 gross receipts. And as Althea said, we're also going to subtract out any approved PPP loan amounts. Now, for calculation number 2, this would be for those applicants that began operations partially through 2019. So you weren't in business for the entirety of 2019. And though you can use this calculation or the next one that we're going to talk about, we want to give you the little caveat that if you choose calculation number 3, that could actually require longer processing time. So you want to choose wisely between which calculation method you will actually be using. Now, calculation 2, again, for those that weren't in operations for the entirety of 2019, you're going to use an average of your 2019 monthly gross receipts. You're going to multiply that by 12 to get a yearly amount. And then, much like the other calculation, you're going to subtract out the 2020 gross receipts, and again, subtraction of your approved PPP loan amounts. That will give you the amount that you're actually eligible for in this program. Now, calculation number 3, because not everybody started in 2019, some were not even in operation for 2019, this one would be for applications or applicants that began operations on or between January 1st of 2020 and March 10th of 2021 this year. And it's also available for applicants not yet opened, but those that have incurred eligible expenses as of March 11th, 2021. Again, if you use this calculation, it may require some longer processing times. And we mention this only because we believe that this will be a very competitive program. So obviously, the quicker you can get in and get your application into the queue, it just gets you in line and has a placeholder, if you will. However, to do this calculation, you're going to look at the total amount that was spent by the business on eligible expenses. And when we say eligible expenses, we're talking about those categories that Althea just covered. They have to fall within those categories. But eligible expenses between February 15th of 2020 and March 11th of 2021. That's the basis of the calculation. Then you're going to subtract out your 2020 and your 2021 gross receipts. And then again, also we're going to subtract out the approved PPP loan amounts. And again, you're going to get to an amount that you can qualify for as long as it's not over those maximum levels that Althea mentioned at the very beginning of the program. Now, when you're looking at the calculation of your 2020 gross receipts, we are allowing that you can exclude some items, some amounts from that calculation. So you're not going to include in your 2020 gross receipts any of the money that you're receiving through the Paycheck Protection Program. Whether it's a first draw or a second draw, doesn't matter if it's forgiven or not, whether you received it in 2020 or 2021. You get to subtract that from your 2020 gross receipts. If you also received some of the SBA Section 1112 payments, those were the debt payments, both principal and interest, that SBA was providing on already existing and brand new 7A loans, 504 loans, and micro loans. You would have received notification from the lender and SBA that you were in line to get these payments. You just need to know how much those were. Additionally, if you accessed our economic injury disaster loan, what we're calling EIDL, the EIDL advance, the new targeted EIDL advance, or any other grant funds that are received via the CARES Act, you don't include those, along with any state and local business grants you may have received as well. You're also, if you're in line for these payments, you would deduct the Randolph-Shepard Act financial relief and restoration payments from your appropriation. Now, you'd be in line to get those payments if you are a vendor for the Department of Education. So it's not applicable to all businesses. It may or may not apply to you. But again, you exclude all of these items from your 2020 gross receipts when you're doing your calculation. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can apply. Althea mentioned that Monday, we will go live taking applications for this particular program at the first website that's listed on the screen, which is restaurants.sba.gov. However, we're opening it up this Friday so that all applicants can go in and start to create their profile, their account on that site. So if you have any technical issues, you can work through those before we actually launch it on 12 noon on Monday. So you can make the online application. If you work with a point of sale vendor, a POS provider, then it's possible that you may be able to apply through them as well. SBA is still looking to partner with additional providers, but already we've signed agreements with NCR, with Square, with Toast, and with Clover. Those are the ones that are already approved, and we'll be adding more as the program rolls out. Additionally, we've set up a call center. The telephone's actually live right now, the telephone number on the screen, which is 844-279-8898. You actually have the ability to do a telephonic application for this program. However, it might take a little bit longer processing times. And we're doing that because we know there are certain businesses that may not have reliable broadband access. So therefore, we made it available to have, you call the SBA and we'll take the application over the phone. The documents that you need in order to apply, and I know these are very wordy slides. All of this information is out on our website, so you don't necessarily have to worry about memorizing the slide as you see them. But what we're going to look for is our application, SBA Form 3172. It will be available to be filled out digitally on our grant platform, that restaurants.sba.gov. Additionally, we'll need to verify tax information. So the IRS 4506T will have to be submitted. And again, if you do it on our grant platform, the digital submission counts to fulfill that requirement. And because those calculations are based on the gross receipts and those other eligible expenses, if you're using calculation number 3, we're going to want to see some of the following documents that demonstrate your gross receipts. So that would be your business tax returns. It could be your IRS Form 1040 Schedule C if you're a sole proprietor, independent contractor, or self-employed. It could be the IRS Form 1040 Schedule F if you're a farming entity. For partnerships, we're looking again for the IRS Form 1065. 3 months of bank statements, that's current bank statements, are required. You could also provide externally or internally prepared financial statements, such as income statements or profit and loss statements. And again, if you're working with one of those point of sale vendors, you could provide the point of sale reports that they provide, including IRS Form 1099K. Now, if you're going to use calculation 1 or 2, again, it's the same information that's listed on the previous slide. However, for the gross receipts for 2020, there's a preferred type of documentation and there's an acceptable type of documentation. So the preferred would be your federal tax returns that are filed or your point of sale report. The acceptable documentation would be that externally or internally prepared financial statements, but that might delay the review past 14 days. So again, we're trying to manage expectations with this particular program. If you're doing calculation number 3, and again, this looks very wordy, lots on this slide, but you can see it out on our website. Same as before, the application form, the tax verification. There is a preferred method for your 2020 and 2021 gross receipts. This particular calculation relies on the eligible expense documentation. So there, the preferred manner is to get a CPA comfort letter, again, with that profit and loss or balance sheet documentation. That will provide the fastest review by SBA, and your CPA should know what that comfort letter means. And we also have the acceptable one, which would be obviously internally or externally prepared financial statements and the eligible documentation for those expenses. Now, as Althea mentioned, there are certain types of businesses that will have to show that on-site sales to the public comprise at least a third of their gross receipts for 2019. For those that are a brew pub, tasting room, tap room, a brewery, winery, distillery, or bakery, we're looking at maybe Tax and Trade Bureau forms, state or local forms filed, or again, internally created reports from inventory management. Oops, I lost my slide. Okay, inventory management, sales reporting, or accounting software. Now, if the business was not actually opened in 2019, but opened in 2020, then we're going to look for the applicant's original business model that would have, again, contemplated that at least 33% of the gross receipts would be done in on-site sales to the public. Now, when we say original business model, I would think business plan. That's typically what we're looking at. Now, if it's an in, same thing. We're looking again that the sale of food and beverages to the public comprise at least 33% of the gross receipts for 2019. If they started in 2020, then it would be the business plan that would show that they had at least contemplated at least that much in gross receipts from on-site sales of food and beverage to the public. There are steps to getting help for this particular program for applying. You don't have to go it alone. As I mentioned, we do have the call center hotline on there. We have resource partners located throughout our district, which is the South Florida district. And you can find them at the website that's listed on the screen, sba.gov/local-assistance. Our call center actually has the availability to assist applicants in multiple languages. I think it's up to 30 languages that are available on that. And the call center is open from 8 in the morning until 8 in the evening. So again, a 12-hour span so that you'll be able to hopefully get through at some point. During typical normal working hours, I would think that the call queues are going to be large, but closer to the evening hours, it may taper off a little bit. So Althea, you're going to take this slide?
I will. I love this part about best practices. How can you be successful in this effort? The first thing you've got to know, because Janelle went through all of those slides telling you what you're going to need, those documents. Please be sure to have complete documentation. Don't skip anything on the list, okay? Those failures to provide complete documentation, complete applications results in delay. And you don't want to be in delay land because I'm about to say it's only $28.6 billion, right? But friends, there are an estimated 1 million restaurants alone in this country. So, you don't want to be left out. So be sure to have a complete application when you submit it. Take today, this weekend, to take a look at the website, see what's required, look at the application, begin to pull your application together. Leverage your resources. We have resource partners in Southwest Florida. We have SCORE chapters. We have the Small Business Development Center at Florida Gulf Coast University who can help you. The Naples chapter of SCORE, the Fort Myers chapter of SCORE are amazing resources who can help you with pulling your application together. Now, we don't require you to use CPAs or accounting professionals, but you might find that helpful. But what I would say is one of the lessons we learned from the PPP and EIDL is that folks used their accountants and other people to make applications for them last year, and then their applications became hijacked by those people, sometimes demanding a cut of the EIDL loan or the advance in order to release information to the borrower. So, be very careful about how you use your resources and leveraging them and those professionals. But other than that, feel free to get the help you need to make a secure and complete application. Number 3, we're not going to really be in a position to help you with corrections, but as Janelle shared with you, we do have that call center hotline that may be able to assist you. But again, you don't want to be in that place. And then also be sure when you're putting in your banking and routing number, we have been delivering all of this COVID relief through electronic funds transfer. Please verify and make sure that you're putting in the correct information for your banking information. That stops everything cold. If when we go to put the money into your account number doesn't match with who is the supposed owner of that account. We're not going to put your money in someone else's account. So make sure you have the right information for us to process your application and deliver the money to you. And then also remember that PPP loan numbers, loan amounts are deducted from your potential grant under this program. So please be sure if you want a PPP loan, if you're still intending to get one of those, hurry up and do that so that we'll know and be able to do the proper calculations for your grant amount. PPP is still open for applications until the end of May. And so, or until the money runs out, right? So make sure that you make your PPP application. And I've been giving the same warning on every webinar I've done. Please do not try to be clever and apply for this loan, or excuse me, this grant, and then think you're going to apply for a PPP loan, hoping to maximize the amount of money that you can get from the federal government. Our systems are integrated. We do know when you have a PPP loan. We do know when you have an EIDL loan, and we're going to know that you've applied for this program. So please be honest and forthright so that you do not get flagged as a potential fraud, someone who commits fraud, because that stops everything cold, okay? So please keep that in mind and just do what is necessary to make this be successful for you. Next slide. Right now, we are in a pilot period where we have randomly selected folks who are PPP borrowers to help us troubleshoot and work out the kinks in the application process for us. And so those folks have been helping us with that, but just don't worry, they're not getting their money before anybody else. And so on Monday, the priority period begins. And for the first 21 days of this program, we are going to be taking applications from everyone, but we are not going to fund anyone except those small business owners who are whose businesses are owned and controlled by women, by veterans, or members of minority groups. Those funds will go out to them first. Then day 22, we will begin processing and funding all remaining applicants. Next slide. So I just want to talk about the priority groups just a little bit more. When I say that we're going to be funding women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged firms or restaurants, applicants, that is means that your business has to be owned and controlled in the majority by someone in that group or someone's in that group. So you can have, for example, a business applicant that has 5 owners who each own 20% of the business. 2 of them are veterans, 1 is socially and economically disadvantaged. And so because those 3 together constitute 60%, that is a majority over 51%, then that business will be considered a member of the priority group and would get funding in the first 21 days. Now, you have to self-certify that you are a member of these groups. Now, again, please don't be clever and choose that you are something you are not, because SBA always reserves the right to come and check. And I will assure you that as people find out who got what, they tell. They tell on people. We have folks reporting to the Inspector General all the time about how so-and-so is not this and isn't eligible and they shouldn't get it, and check them out, and then the trouble starts. Okay, and even if you are who you say you are or you're not, trust me, to defend yourself against the government is a costly endeavor. So just do the right thing. Okay, next slide. So socially disadvantaged individuals are those who have been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias because of their identity as a member of that group. Okay, and so Black Americans, Hispanics, Asians, Native Americans, and subcontinental Asian Americans are considered. They are presumed to be socially disadvantaged. Economically disadvantaged individuals are those whose ability to compete in the free enterprise system has been impaired due to diminished capital and credit opportunities compared to others in the same business who are not socially disadvantaged. So if you meet that criteria, you can self-certify that you are a member of these groups, and that your business is owned and controlled 51% or more, and then you would be considered in the priority group. You can apply and hopefully will get funding in the first 21 days. Now, really important, if you're not in the priority group, do not change your business structure and ownership shares in order to become a priority group member. That will automatically disqualify you from consideration. And believe me, we are the federal government. We have lots and lots of tools to find out who's who and what's what. So please don't do it. Just wait. Use that first 21 days. Use this weekend to get ready to make the application. And day 22, we'll begin looking at the rest of you. So don't panic. Next slide. Oh, what is really great, I think, is that one of the lessons we learned last year when we were beginning to dispense CARES Act money is through the PPP program was this fear that the larger small businesses would gobble up everything, right? So for this fund, SBA has set aside $5 billion for those applicant businesses whose gross receipts were not more than $500,000. For those over $500,000, but capped at 1.5 million, there's an additional $4 billion set aside for their applications, and then another $500 million, $500 million is set aside for applicants whose gross receipts are not even $50,000. So the smallest of small businesses in these categories will be able to get funding. And of course, SBA reserves the right to reallocate those funds to ensure that businesses in the smallest sectors receive funding. Next slide. And then Janelle, I think you're going to take it over from here.
Yeah, I can do that. So we have a website for the South Florida District Office, which is the first website listed on this slide, sba.gov/South Florida. As Althea mentioned, we have a lot of different events that we hold as the district, but we also have all of our resource partner events out on our web calendar. So we'd like you to go out there. You can also subscribe to our email distribution list at the bottom of the page, and that way you'll stay in the know, up to date on everything that we're rolling out, not only for the pandemic, but on into the future, whatever the future looks like. We already mentioned the second internet address that's on there, the web address, which is how you can get in contact with our resource partners, sba.gov/local-assistance. It's a mapping tool, so you use your zip code and it will let you know the contact information for those resource partners that would be located near to you. You can also locate our office on there, but I like to remind everybody that because of the pandemic, we're still currently 100% telework. We're not open to the public yet. And Althea also mentioned that we do have a YouTube channel. The website is on the screen right there, but it's just as easy to do an internet search and do SBA South Florida District YouTube, and it will pop up. We've got content on there. We're constantly adding more content. we're looking to upload this recording there as well, so you can come back and see a view of it. And then lastly, to stay connected with SBA, we understand that this program and others we've rolled out are being tweaked and changed, modified with new legislation that's coming out. We're hearing responses from the small business community. So the best way to stay up to date on what we do is, again, to sign up for the SBA's e-newsletter. You can do that at sba.gov/updates. Put in your email address, throw in your zip code, and you'll be added to our distribution list automatically. We do want you to know that SBA is active on social media. Our agency and our district both have Twitter handles, so ours is highlighted for the South Florida area. But we're also on Instagram as an agency. Something else, another way to stay, connected and up to date on what it is that we're doing. To contact our office, we have our email address listed on the slide, South Florida _DO@sba.gov. That's probably the better way to reach out to our office right now. As you can tell, or probably assume, we have a lot of calls right now. So you can call 305-536-5521. I just think you'll probably get a quicker response via email. Now, this program and all of our other programs related to the coronavirus pandemic are out at that very top website that you see, sba.gov/relief. That's the landing page for all of the economic aid that we're rolling out due to these new legislation that's being passed all the time. So you'll find everything there that has anything to do with the pandemic relief that we're offering. But if you wanted to go and see some of the other programs we mentioned specifically, you can go directly to them at those other websites. sba.gov/PPP takes you out to the Paycheck Protection Program. The EIDL program and the grant programs underneath the EIDL program are at sba.gov/EIDL. And we did mention the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, which is currently open and taking applications. That can be found at sba.gov/SVO grant. But again, if you don't remember any of those other ones, just remember sba.gov/relief, and you'll find, again, our landing page for everything that's we're having to do with relief that we're offering through economic aid programs for the pandemic. And I think that's the last slide. So.
Yeah. So Warren, we are DONE. I wonder if anyone who's on has any questions. I mean, that might be useful and helpful for the recording as well. I know we have Mr. Louis from the United Haitian American Chamber. If there's anything, that jumps to mind that we can answer for you, we'd be delighted to do that.
No, one of the things I know is that there was great information shared. We really appreciate it, ladies. And I have a young lady that's listening right now. She has such a powerful story. I didn't get her permission to share too much, so I won't say. But what I would say is the thing that she did in collaboration with us. When we first heard about the pandemic in March, we partnered with her. I think late April, where we were able to serve about 90 meals to the hospital, hot meal, and she made all the food and everything, and she took her time, etc. So she's been a person that got hit really hard because it was just at the beginning of the year she opened her business. And I know there have been some things that went on with her life, and I don't know where she's at with the business right now, but at least she's listening. I'm glad she was able to get on the call. I don't know if she can speak. Her name is Emily.
That's wonderful. Yeah. We've found that our business community, even though they have been impacted by this, has shown a tremendous ability to give back, in any way that they can. It doesn't always have to mean that it's money, but services, goods and services being open and available to other businesses to help them out has been, very inspirational to us to watch.
Right. Her food truck was doing so well at the beginning of the year, and then this happened. I'm so glad that in the midst of all of that, she was able to team up with the chamber and serve others. I'm proud of her.
Well, it sounds like she would be eligible under this fund, as long as she's still, operational. She doesn't permanently close her business. So that would be exciting if she were able to get some funding under this program to keep doing what she's doing.
I see. That would be great.
Well, Yeah, I hope so too. Well, thank you all for joining today. Thank you, Warren, for always being such a great partner, you and Lee County Economic Development, bringing quality information to your small businesses. I look forward to being able to come back out there again.
I can't wait to see you again in person. And thank you and Janelle both for sharing this. I have recorded it. We're going to post that and online and share it with all our partners in the community through the various chambers and different organizations that we work with. I will say that I have visited the YouTube channel for the SBA, and there is an awful lot of really good, well-presented information. They break it down and make it really understandable. If you have a specific issue, they kind of break it down into smaller chunks too. So that's a good resource as well if you get a chance to visit that. As I said, thank you again so much for your time. We really appreciate you doing this for us, and you're a great partner here in Southwest Florida. And we can't wait to have an office here in Lee County, not just over there in Miami. So
right.
Lisa, yes, come on. So all right.
That'd be great. All right.
I'm gonna stop recording now. Thank you guys very much, and to those that could tune in, thank you for being here, and we appreciate you attending.
Awesome.
I really don't want to miss the opportunity to tell